And I also think you can be a realist and also be optimist as well. You can be within the real world and still have an optimistic thought about how to do things. And I think that this is why this, for me, was so interesting to have so much knowledge on one panel to actually ask the questions, to make
100.
sure that, like Auntie Afong said, that you're not romanticizing the situation, but also to have a real understanding of it, especially with having so much wealth. You know, I'm younger, so I might not have the kind of knowledge of the past as the elders might have. So where something might seem that it makes sense to me, this is why a panel like this is important, and why we should be open to have these kind of questions, optimist or not, and lay them out to people who have the experience and knowledge. So
100.
one of my next questions on top of that was, I think Brother Seku kind of answered it, because the reason why I asked the question in regards to what would we need to see is not so much for romancing's sake, but also to have a clear understanding to know when we're seeing something that we need to support. What are the key indicators do we need to see in a country that is might be moving towards a revolution, like what has been mentioned before in the past, for us younger generations to come up to understand that, okay, that is something that seemingly is something that would look like a revolution or a Pan-African-esque move, or something that we want to see in the right direction. So when I think Brother Seku said things like, you know, doing your own infrastructure, doing your railways, things like that. The reason why I actually asked that question is because when I've looked into it and done my own research, I've noticed that Burkina Faso is taking control of their gold. Niger is taking control of their uranium and now charging it at market
Rate.
price. Yeah. You know, Mali is doing a new constitution, and so has Burkina Faso, which have done stuff that will actually help with the citizens within. We know that Burkina Faso is also doing a new power plant, working on doing a new power plant. I know that the three countries have also recently decided to stop selling raw materials to Europe. I know that just recent as well that Niger has decided to end. I've got it on here. I think they call it cooking gas as well. So I'm sure that the panelists can probably talk further to it. But I know that, you know, there was some infrastructure through the Sahel to funnel gas, which is very much needed through the EU, through the Sahel. And now Niger has actually said that they are going to, because once they pull out, it can't function, because if they pull out, the whole kind of funnel stops. So there's and I could keep going. So there's things like that, which makes me see that they are implementing certain things where, even as an optimist, as a realist, I can say, okay, well, that is stuff that looks as though it can be helping. Of course, I can look at it and say that, you know, where's the money going to go to and things like that. But at least now, for materials that are coming out of that country is at a, like, that's a bold move in its own. For me, that I think that's a bold move to do to the West, to even implement that as a charge, number one. And also the fact that, you know, when I've heard as well, is that when I'm looking at it as well, and what I've seen, they are getting a lot of support on the ground from the people. So that again was one of the indicators mentioned. But when we're looking at Burkina Faso, they're seeing that a lot of their youth are actually like the people that are enlisting to join their military. If they need to fight, they will. That's the youth on the ground. So that's people, we're seeing thousands of people on the ground cheering them on. So those are kind of things that are similar to the things that I heard in regards to indicators to see. And I think the last thing I'd mention is, you know, cutting off raw materials, disrupting fuels going to Europe, charging market rate for materials, that's not necessarily, it doesn't seem that that would be something to appease. It wouldn't be something a puppet would do to Western masters. That's something that would, yeah, that would definitely be something that would ruffle their feathers.
Interesting points there, Sister gotkushTV. So I wonder what our guests think of that. Yeah, like are these leaders doing certain things that we should pay attention to and say, well, why that looks like a serious move. For example, refusing to give the uranium at the previous rate and charging what is in fact the market rate for it. For example, cutting off certain resources like gas, yeah, through the pipeline. For example, starting up in an indigenous power plant. Yeah, we know that energy is a significant issue all over Africa and all over the African world. Yeah, and so are any of these acts that some of them, at least, coup leaders are engaged in, acts that we should see in a positive light? I'll start with Sister Affiong, Auntie Affiong, on this.
Let me know if you can't hear me, because I see my network is going in and out.
No, we can hear you fine. We can hear you fine.
Excellent. I think obviously we need to be appreciative of the things that are going on, you know, like the issue of uranium, you know, the charges and all these other things that have been listed. That's all positive. Sorry, before I address that, let me quickly say something to my sis. It's not so much old and younger. It's really about us, all of us taking the trouble to study history, because you find a lot of older people that are 10 times more naive than any young person you could ever come across. You know, so it's really not, and yeah, so that's what it is. It's just about studying history, because the beauty of history is that it gives you the patterns, you know. It says if you see A, you know, then you know this is what's coming and stuff. So that's, I just wanted to say that, because yes, I mean, we have so many ignorant, you know, older people that it just, you know, makes you look at them as a waste of space. And then of course very revolutionary young people. So back to the issue. So yes, so there are all these things that are being declared and being done, and one has to be appreciative of that. But you see, it's, you know, we're all on different categories. There are people who just study things and discuss things, you know, and then hopefully there are those who are actually involved in attempting to raise the consciousness of the people. And then there are those who are involved in trying to organize for revolution. So to whatever extent anybody's involved, the stakes are different for us, you see. If we're saying that, oh, they've changed the price of uranium, excellent. Are they actually selling it at that price that has been stated publicly? Number two, who is it being actually to? You know, because you know, one of the things I've found out over time, you know, in terms of in the process of doing the work that I do, is that, let me give you an example, and it will look like I'm digressing. I'm not. See, Russia and Ukraine are at war now, and so the masses are, everybody's either on Russia's side or Ukraine's side. You'll be shocked to know that they're still having meetings. They have discussions. Intergovernmental things are still going on. The point I'm making is that what we see on the outside is actually not what is happening behind the scenes. So, for example, and I'm just speaking. Niger could say, oh yes, we've changed the price of our uranium. Maybe they're selling it at some other price to the Americans. So they've switched from the French to the Americans. So now to us, is that a good thing? To you, is that a progressive thing? The answer to any revolutionary Pan-Africanist would be no. And that's why I said, yes, there's been a rebellion. They've quarreled with one partner, you know, what, with one imperialist, you know, faction, so to speak. But they haven't quarreled with imperialism itself. You see, and these are the things. So we need to look deep for our own sakes, so we do not fall into the pit. You know, they haven't quarreled with imperialism. They've quarreled with one faction. And it's the same thing we have in the neo-colonies. You know, that in terms of the neo-colonial forces, there might be a quarrel between themselves. It doesn't necessarily represent the interest of the people. Yeah. But anyway, so going forward, one is grateful for that, you know, hopefully, and that's the thing. We hope that indeed the uranium is actually being sold for the price they say is sold. And then if it is being sold, what exactly are the proceeds used for? Look at us in Nigeria. We have so much oil. We sell all our oil, but we're in darkness. You know, as I speak to you, you know, we're in darkness. You know, there's no electricity, you know, but we have oil. We're rich. So yes, they sell the oil, but the people don't see it, you know. So these are all the contradictions. So on the outside, it might look good and sound good. We just have to examine whether it's actually impacting on the people.